Hi, I'm Sarah Cornett with the Office of Internships and Career Development. I'm the internship coordinator. This session is Finding or Creating Your Ideal Internship. This is a recording of the session that we've offered multiple times throughout the year. Um, this is one of the 3 internship info sessions that are required before participating in your first internship. Those sessions also include applying for internships and how to receive credit and funding for your internship. Finding or creating and the applying for internship sessions are required unless you already have an offer. And then the how to receive credit and funding session is required for all summer 2021 interns, even if you've attended it in previous years. But this particular session is to help you think through ideas, strategies, and resources while you're in your internship search, how to get started on that search, and then what kind of resources and strategies to use while you're looking for internships that may be right for you. So it's about the resources to be aware of and how to start your search. In those other sessions that I mentioned, we do go much deeper into how to apply for internships as well as how to receive credit and funding, which are a lot more step-by-step processes, and the how to look at your resumes and cover letters and things like that. So we don't touch too much on that in this session. This one is a lot more about the resources and ideas. So in 2019, because we didn't have internships in 2020, in 2019, 281 Berea students found internships that represented 32 different majors, and we had interns spread across 32 different states. And so I think those are really exciting numbers, especially given that not all academic programs require internships. It's just highly encouraged high impact practice. So this is sort of to give you a little bit of hope too, because this many students did successfully find internships. So how do other Berea students find internships? A lot of different ways. We actually got this data from the student internship experience evaluation that every intern fills out at the end of their internship. And most students were telling us that they found internships through connections with Berea College faculty or staff. So of course, internet searches and some of these other options kind of could probably be linked into or combined with the internet search category as well. That is another kind of obvious way that people are searching for internships. I will give you some specific online resources though in this presentation. ICD workshop or appointment, something like this may be a way that you found an internship. Berea College alumni are an incredible resource, and alumni love to help out current students, and I will kind of go over a quick way to start that networking in a less intimidating way than walking into a room and trying to find somebody, especially nowadays. So maybe you had a previous employer internship site, maybe an employer visited campus in the past, or there was a virtual employer session, maybe a previous volunteer site. And Handshake is also a way that students are finding internships. It's a pretty new system, but this number keeps growing because more and more internships are being posted in the system. So if this is you, then definitely this session should help at least some. If you have no idea what you're doing in regards to your internship search, or maybe you feel like you are a little bit, have an idea, but you're not really sure how to organize your thoughts around it or the next steps. That's okay. That's why we're here. So just keep calm and start organizing those thoughts. And so a way to do that in general would be to narrow your search criteria. So what kind of sectors or markets are you looking at? What are you interested in? This is a very, 30,000 foot view. You can get a lot more narrowed here. But kind of the start in general would be, there are 3 main sectors. So there's private organizations, private companies, private different groups there that you may find great internships with. There's also nonprofit. Of course, there's a huge range of nonprofits that do, there's no way to know how long that list really is, that do all kinds of different advocacy work, service work. Maybe that's something that you're looking at. And then there's also government. No matter what political affiliation you are, what major you're interested in, government usually has jobs for you and internships for you. So if that's something you're interested in as well, think about that and maybe start categorizing these into a list of what you're interested in. Different markets, there's three main ones. So there's local, national, and international. Local could mean local to your home. This may be the perfect year to look at doing an internship closer to home because housing is going to be harder to find because of the pandemic. And you can much more dependable for most students to look at things close to home. And transportation wouldn't be as much of an issue. On the local could also mean near Berea, the Berea area. So maybe it's better for your situation and circumstance to stay around the Berea area. It doesn't mean necessarily doing an internship at the college, although there are some options if that works is best for you. But just around the Berea area. So maybe you're going to be living on campus or in the city of Berea and want to do something Berea, Richmond, or Lexington area. National, I mentioned earlier, we had interns in 32 different states. So you can look at internships all across the United States. Now, of course, given the current pandemic circumstances, it's a lot of employers right now aren't sure if they're going to be able to take on interns. Others have already been working out their remote internship programs, which, good news is that we are offering academic credit for those this year. And you can get remote level funding as well. So think about that. Just because you see a posting, this can actually open up a lot of opportunities for you. So maybe you'd love to do some PR work with this organization in California. They may have pivoted to allowing remote internships because of the circumstances this year. So even if you don't see a posting for it, it could be worth reaching out and seeing. You could get connections nationally while still being safe working from home. Now, I did put an asterisk next to international. This is dependent on college policies. Those could change. Decisions may or may not have already been made about allowing for international internships and travel, depending on when you watch this recording. So always go to the website under Explore Internship Opportunities, which I'll show you later, and then click on International Internship Guidelines to see who you need to contact. However, even if we had a normal year, the funding is not available for international internships as it would be for a domestic internship. It's much more, you're going to get much more for your money to do an internship within the United States. Now, if it's a remote one, we can look at that. But actual international travel is still a little iffy this year. And the funding is not there for international internships. So I'm going to bring up the Handshake resource here in a little bit and show you how to search in that and some things you may not have known exist in there. You will see that these internship numbers will increase most likely, even in this odd year. They should increase after the break, January, early February. That is cutting it a bit close, but a lot of recruiters, just because of how things have been going, aren't sure yet what they're going to be allowed to do. Others might be working on offering remote internships but aren't ready to post them yet. So just because you don't see exactly what you want in Handshake right now doesn't mean that you shouldn't watch it. Something I recommend doing, you have the ability, kind of like you follow people on Twitter, you have the ability to follow employers that are in Handshake. And so if and when they post positions, you should be notified if you followed that particular employer or employers that you're interested in. So I'll show you how to do that. We usually offer several virtual employer recruiting events each term. You need to just look in Handshake under events to see what's offered. And if you don't see any right now, it could mean we're either on a break or we're still working with employers to schedule those. But watch our weekly update emails as well, because we will mention those a week or two ahead of time whenever we have virtual employer recruiting events. Previous Berea interns are really great resources for you. They could vouch for your work ethic or your skill set. to their previous internship site. And I'll show you where to find a list of those, at least from 2017 through 2019. BREA faculty, staff, and alums, always wanting to help out students looking for opportunities. So use those resources. They are there for you. And I'll show you some more specific ways, as I mentioned, to reach out to alums. And of course, friends and family. There can be very valuable connections with friends and family. The reason why I use this particular picture, though, is just to caution you, just because you happen to have a relative that could give you an internship and like, oh, that's easy way for me to get accepted to an internship, you need to make sure that it's one that's going to support your career plans and really be connected with what you want to do, as well as you would have to have a supervisor that's not an immediate family member just because of, conflicts of interest and things like that. So just because, a fun relative might want to give you an internship just because they like you, don't necessarily take the first one that's offered to you, just because. Think critically about, will this help make the connections that you need for the work you want to do one day for a job. So some more resources here. I've kind of categorized them in organization website, professional organizations, and internship search sites. An organization, and I'll bring some of these up live just because I think it's much more helpful for you to see me clicking around and trying to find what the information you need, because an internship search takes detective work. It's not just because you do one Google search one afternoon for 30 minutes and just don't give up after that, just because it could take hours and hours of diving into different postings and trying different search terms, just because you might not get what you're looking for within the first search. Something might also get posted later. So continuously search, especially when if you're starting this over a period that you have some time, like a break, to do that. So difference between an organization website and a professional organization. An organization website is just like every company's individual website that they have. It's not a job posting board. It's not a system like Handshake or Indeed or something like that can post positions. That they may have their positions on their website, though, but that means you have to look at that particular company, that particular organization in their website to see where they might have listed their jobs. And that may or may not be the only place where they've posted them. Sometimes it is, because smaller nonprofits may not have the budget to post on websites like Indeed or LinkedIn, things like that. So I would highly recommend identifying some employers that you're really interested in and searching and diving into their website. And it may take you a while to find it, because not all websites are user-friendly as far as the navigation goes. Professional organizations are organizations that are centered around particular industries. And I can't think of industries that don't have them. So this particular example is just a graphic designers professional organization. So graphic designers from all kinds of different companies, different different ways that they focus on graphic design. But if it's all centered around graphic design, this is just an example. So there's a lot of times they'll have memberships to these organizations, professionals that want to keep networking connections, keep up on industry trends. A lot of times there's codes of ethics and all that, and conferences surrounding these things. The reason why I'm mentioning them to you, other than it's a great thing to do, as a new professional, is if you're searching for internships, a lot of times these organizations have student memberships, and they're either really cheap or free. And so if you can get on their mailing lists, you may be some of the first people to get job posting notifications and things like that. So I'll show you one of these. The other internship search sites you can see there, that's not a exhaustive list. That's just some popular ones that we know have had some good postings before. And then I'll also bring up our ICD page for internship opportunities as well. And then I will open up LinkedIn here in a minute. So I'm going to hop out of the presentation for a second. And I'm going to reshare my screen. And so the first example I wanted to show you was what would fall under that category of an organization's website. This is an individual organization. Happens to be the American Red Cross. They offer lots of opportunities, and it might not be readily apparent if you just went to American Red Cross's website, just redcross.org, I think is what it is, because I had to dig a little bit to find this. So you can see where it is. So it's home, about us, careers, university programs, and then go into internships. And even within internships, you need to dig a little bit, read and be a detective whenever you're doing your search. So there's some key deadlines that you need to be aware of. Applications open in November for the summer internships, for example, and what you need to know before applying. And it looks like they've got a nicely organized site. It's just kind of buried down in here a little bit. And then how to apply is important. So I've actually looked at this before doing this presentation, and I know that there's not very many of the paid opportunities right now, but any of their volunteer opportunities can be made into internships. And if you're seeking academic credit, you can get some funding from us in order to be able to do that. So don't let the unpaid part scare you. So if you go to their volunteer page, it's going to, so there's a lot of different things you can scroll through to find out more about it, but what we're looking for is the actual volunteer opportunities. So here we go, all volunteer opportunities. And so they give you some different ways to engage here, but I'm just going to look at browse volunteer positions, and then they categorize them: behind the scenes, boots on the ground, client facing, communications and outreach. Let's just look at finance and fundraising and see what they've got. But you can search in all of these. So it looks like here's an event planning one, and it would allow you to apply to volunteer. Just because it doesn't say internship does not mean that they can't make it an internship. We actually have a relationship with the recruiter for the Kentucky region of American Red Cross, and she has told us that any of these volunteer opportunities can be possible internships, and they will work with Berea on how to make it work. So read through this, how to apply. So this is just a great example of an organization's website. I did mention the professional associations. I'll show you one of those real quick, that design one that I mentioned. And I had to search a little bit here too. I'm already on the page that I needed, but the way I found this was look under careers and design jobs, and then it took me here, and then I clicked on internships. You can filter more if you want to. It's helpful too to set up alerts. You know, you may have some time especially if you started your internship search early. You know, you can get some alerts for when internships are posted. So these have some internships. I know this is a big company in New York. Would be great to have on a resume for someone interested in design, for example. You can look at more there. I won't go into this one too long because this is very specific, but professional associations are great places to look at possibilities. All right, so on our actual website, if you go to, I'll start here. It's berea.edu/ICD, and this takes you here. Go to the orange internship box and click on students, learn about programs and positions, and it brings you here. And then if you're looking for opportunities, just go to that explore internship opportunities button, and it's gonna list all these different opportunities. You kind of have to click on each one to look into each one. But Handshake is one that I'm going to bring up in a minute, so I won't go into that, but it shows you the link to log in. This is what I was coming here for as well. So sites hosting Berea interns. There's a little blurb about this, but this is from 2017 through 2019. May or may not be offering current positions, but you can open this, and it opens up a spreadsheet and a PDF. I'm going to zoom in for you a little bit. So this is sorted by the department that was granting the credit for the internship. So if you're interested in a particular one, just scroll down. It's by alphabetized by department. Let's say maybe communications. You can see someone did a sports communication internship in Knoxville with the Emerald Youth Foundation. So I'm not going to read all these, obviously, but you can search and see when that was done. We have taken out student names just for privacy reasons because this is posted online. But if you're interested in connecting with somebody because you think, oh my gosh, that's exactly the place I want to intern, I wonder if they would talk to me more about it, then we could ask their permission and potentially connect you with someone who's done an internship there. So this is a great resource to help brainstorm. Again, it doesn't mean they have current open positions, but it can help with your search. If I go back to the opportunities page, the Shepherd Internship Program is a great program. I won't go into it too much just because for this year, deadline has passed for that. But you can learn more about it for the next year if you want to, and how to apply. International internships I mentioned, if you're looking into that, just know that that may or may not be an option this year. And again, the funding is much better for you if you do a domestic internship, but you can read about the guidelines here. Very carefully read those. Another thing I wanted to briefly mention was Parker Dewey micro internships as an option. Maybe you really, really need just more experience, but you don't need the academic credit. You just want some short project-based work. Parker Dewey micro internships are a really good option for that. They are competitive, but if you have the exact skill set that they're looking for, you have a good chance at possibly getting hired for one of these. These are paid. They're all remote, so it's great right now. Non-credit experiences that target students with particular skill sets to complete independent projects. So you do have to, this is very independent, again, not for credit. They vary. It could be a few days to a week, so just look at the particular process. Unfortunately, F1 students aren't eligible because these internships don't qualify for academic credit, but I did want to mention these to you as an option because it's another way to gain experience if you are on a break or taking a leave or just would like some more experience. I want to open up LinkedIn next. Even if you're a first-year student, you know, I promise LinkedIn is not Facebook for old people. It's actually the most popular and used social media for professionals. And, you know, millions of people all over the world use this. So if you're just kind of logging in, and the most obvious place to go, lots of companies, organizations post on LinkedIn. So you just go to the little briefcase link here, the jobs one, and then search for possibilities. I'm going to look at finance intern, and you can see all kinds of stuff comes up, and you have to just filter down more based on what your particular interests are. So you can even see, like, I'm an Eastern Kentucky University alum, so it tells me based on that 6 of those alums work there. And so I work at Berea, and it'll tell me that one company alum has worked or works with this particular place. So that would be a good way to be like, oh, maybe I should reach out to them. Another way, if you're not just searching postings, is to look at Berea alums. And this is that kind of not as intimidating way to network that I was talking about. So I'm going to pick Berea College here and make sure that it says you search for schools. So make sure you're not still under jobs, but you would search for schools, find Berea College, and then go down to alumni. So this is some really useful data that you may not have seen before. You can see where alumni that are using LinkedIn work. So find companies that you're interested in and see what they're doing there. You may be able to reach out, send them a LinkedIn message. It's very professional to do that. People do it all the time. And see who you can connect with. And if you're not familiar with LinkedIn, if you're not a direct connection with someone, it'll show that you have you maybe know somebody that they know. And so you can ask to connect with them if you know them. I hesitate, don't just connect with people that you don't know without sending at least a brief LinkedIn message to them, because sometimes it just looks like you're just trying to get a bunch of connections and it doesn't have a lot of value to it. So if you're reaching out for internship opportunities or you have questions about a company, the work they do, just send a quick note and we can help you. The internship office can help you formulate that if you're not really confident with how to word those things. Um, but it could be something as simple as, hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm a current Berea College student majoring in, let's say, English. I'm really interested in the work that your company does and would like to see if you have any information about internship opportunities with your organization. But of course, before you send a message like that, you want to make sure that you've done your due diligence, you've done your research. Don't ask them a question that can easily be figured out online. If you say, do you have any internships? And they have to say, yeah, they're all posted on our website, that doesn't look as good. It doesn't reflect as well on you. So do some research first. But this is a great way to find alums that are working in the areas you want to work in or in companies that you're interested in. All right, so I'm going to jump into Handshake now. Let's see here. So I want to show you how to get to where I am right now. If you're just on your profile in Handshake, then you just go to jobs. That's the most obvious place to start. And it's going to start showing you some. I mean, there are a lot of jobs in Handshake, and Handshake is actually, if you don't know a lot about it, it's actually designed for finding young or entry-level talent would be the better way to say it. So, you know, there you may see the occasional posting for an advanced position in here, but Handshake is really helping current students and recent graduates. And so employers know that. They know that you're not going to have 10 years of experience if you're applying through Handshake necessarily. So Handshake's a great place to start for internships. I wouldn't put too many filters on it just because you don't want to cut something out that you might find, but just putting internship on there is good. I wouldn't put too many more. So you can see now what's here. And if the employer wants you to apply externally, you can do that. Handshake makes it really easy to just know what you need to do. You can see who else has worked there before, different reviews, and similar jobs. So start with the Handshake postings. They can be really useful. Another filter that people might not know about, if you go under all filters and go all the way down to the bottom, labeled by your school, this is like our office essentially. If you click internship partner site, it doesn't have a lot right now, but like I told you, this will grow as recruiters are more comfortable posting their positions, which is most likely going to be after the new year. But right now there's already 5 in there, so I'll show you those results. So this means when we label something internship partner site, it means we've either had interns there before successfully that loved their experiences, or we've worked with the employer enough to know we can vouch for their internship program, that it would be a good quality experience for you. So I recommend using that. You can either use it when you're searching for jobs or employers. There's at least 47 or so employers in here that are internship partner sites. So you can look and see who those are and then research their websites some more. So I'll go ahead and look at that. Go down to the filter, they're under the labels, internship partner site. So you can see these sites that we can vouch for. Of course, we vouch for ourselves. And you notice that there are reviews by each one. These are students who have done internships or work at the companies, and not necessarily Berea students, but sometimes. And so those are really helpful as well. And I had mentioned that if you're interested in a particular company, you can follow them. So if they do post something in January, you get an email or notification in Handshake so that you wouldn't miss out being able to apply for it. So I recommend you follow any employer in Handshake. I can clear these filters out. Any employer among the thousands in Handshake that you're interested in, so that you know if and when they post something. So I'm going to look at Google. I know this is a competitive but popular one. So you can see there they have reviews here. So let's say you got you're interested in an internship, or maybe you have an interview. You can look at reviews from actual students who've done internships there, and they'll say what they liked, what they worked on. If you found that helpful, you can kind of thumbs up there or ask them more about it. Any advice, what they wish was different. This is really useful information, and I recommend including it as part of your search. If you got an interview, you can even look at what the interns have said about the interview process and what's one question that they were asked, which would be great, especially if you look at that question and you're like, oh, I don't know what that means. Might be useful to study up when you're doing your interview practice. So this is just something in Handshake that I don't think enough students maybe know about or utilize yet. I wanted to point that out for you. Let's see. So another place in Handshake to go, not necessarily job postings, although there are some. Let's see. I want to go to resources. So if you look at what can I do with this major, especially if you're kind of struggling between, I don't know how to search for employers really well, this can help, even if you know what your major is. So click on that, go to what can I do with this major, and then view all majors. This is just more for those of you who need help kind of brainstorming maybe search terms or different employers to look into. If you're kind of coming up blank, this is really helpful. I'm just gonna pick maybe criminal justice. Okay, so if you click on that, and that's just, Bria may or may not have that exact major, but it's gonna be, usually most universities would have something similar. So in this particular example, you could see all the areas, they separate out into categories. So social services, different employers there, consulting, advocacy, all kinds of different ways. Strategies, if you're interested in that. Here's judiciary and law, different employers for that, different strategies for that. And it keeps on going. For every one of the majors, it has a page like this. You can also go down to the bottom, and I told you that every industry has a professional organization or association, and it can get you started here. Occupational outlook, more research about the industry, different related resources, and there are even some employment opportunity links, so you can maybe find internship postings there. So, English is one that a lot of times people will be like, well, I don't know, other than writing, what do I do? So writing and editing, here's all the different ways you can look into that. Different employers that would need writers and editors, strategies, and then even more technical communications. So whenever you're searching, if you're just doing a Google search and on internships, use some of these as your search terms if you're wanting to narrow down a little bit more. Okay, so each one of these has something like that. Go back to the resources here. So this is a resource library within Handshake. We post things that you don't necessarily have access to with just Google because we pay subscription for the access. So going global, if you look at the USA Career Guide, you can find some postings in there and really a lot of more helpful information. We don't even have time to go into it today. Way Up has jobs and internship postings, really good resource there. Really helpful advice on cover letters, job search, all kinds of stuff from the Muse. Career One Stop is a place that would be good to go. Glassdoor has postings as well. Some of these are resources and some of these actually have postings for you to look at. Okay, so just explore that if you haven't looked into this much, because there's all kinds of different resources you can dive into, especially if you're like, I don't even know where to start my search. Start looking at all of these things. All right, so I'm going to stop my screen share for a second and go back. You're still with me, I hope. All right. Okay, so those are those resources that I brought up. And so what we don't want to happen is for you to, try to make an appointment with us and say, I Googled, but I couldn't find anything. So if you request an internship assistance appointment, we're going to ask you, what kind of help do you need and what have you already searched for? So hopefully this is one of the reasons we require this session, is because we give you so many resources to at least come to that meeting with a list of maybe 3 to 5 postings you found interesting, not necessarily that you're going to apply to, but what have you found that kind of sparks your interest a little bit. Make sure you do your research, and then we can really help you a lot more effectively in those meetings. So when you're researching and comparing and considering your choices, you want to ask yourself several questions. So it starts out with kind of, what's the mission of the organization? That's important because it can also be a question in an interview. So you want to know that. What kind of reputation do they have? There are all kinds of companies and organizations where we could just mention a name and you associate something with them. So if you're going to work for them, you want them to kind of align with your values, and be in the know, I guess, on what their reputation is in case they ask you in an interview about something more timely and newsworthy. Ask, do they have an established internship program, or would this be where you're seeking to create an opportunity? And this is okay. We have students every year create their opportunities because there aren't any postings out there, but there's a great organization. Maybe they didn't post anything because they don't have the budget to. Well, you can still do an unpaid internship and get funding from the internship office if you seek credit for it. So, all kinds of opportunities out there. Just make sure you search and make sure. An established internship program, if they've had interns before, they have postings on their website, they kind of have a structure around an internship program. That's what that means. But a lot of smaller companies, smaller nonprofits may not have that, and you would need to reach out and create an opportunity. So know where your organizations of interest fall in there. Ask, why do you want to work there? And these are questions you're asking yourself, but you may be asked this in an interview as well. If you can't answer that with a good reason other than I need an internship, it's not as likely that you're going to be offered one, because they want to know why do you want to work for them, and what kind of impact can you make? So, of course, we can do mock interviews, and our office can help with that. This is really, really important. So how would it support your career plans? If you don't know the answer to this question, or if even the words career plan stresses you out, think about why. And it may not be the best time to be doing an internship, or maybe you just need a little bit more help focusing. An internship is ideally going to help you find a job eventually, whether that's in that organization or whether it's helping make the connections and building the skill set to get a job in a similar industry. So you want to use your summer strategically. You at least need to have a good idea of the type of work you're interested in and what to focus on before doing an internship. Now, an internship can be perfect for helping you figure out, maybe you want to focus in one direction versus another. Maybe you want to, you thought you wanted to do more editing, but you're way more interested in interviewing and writing. That's just a specific example. Internships can help you clarify that direction. Ask, do you or anyone you know have contacts there? We just talked about reaching out to people on LinkedIn or other students. It's really helpful if you have someone that can vouch for you, because if you're a name that nobody knows, it's even harder to get even if you have an excellent cover letter, it's even harder to get noticed, just because, relationships are so important. Where are they located? This year in particular is not as important because remote options are being offered more and more, and actually pretty recommended if it's a structured, a good remote opportunity. But if you're looking at more of an in-person internship, you really need to carefully consider, where are they located? You want to make connections in an area where you can maybe see yourself living one day. But even if you're doing something remote, it still makes a difference at what connections you're making, where you would eventually end up. But location would also matter because of housing. If you're looking at an in-person internship, you need to ask, is short-term affordable housing available? If it's not, it may not be doable for you. or you need to look at a remote option where you can live at home. So the housing is one of the biggest stressors for interns. We don't do it for you, but we do have a housing guide that you can read under our forms and resources page. So ask all of these questions. If there's not an official posting for something, I talked about creating an opportunity. So what if you found a company you'd be really interested in working with, but they don't have a posting anywhere? And before you just say they don't, make sure you've looked. Option one, do you immediately freak out and make an internship assistance appointment and tell us that you searched and searched for hours, but there's nothing out there? That could be the case. I'm not saying that that's not true, but we've seen too many times where it's just a quick search and then someone says they've searched. It takes some time. You've got to be a detective. Option two is a better option to try first. So if you don't see any posting, find an appropriate staff member at the company to reach out to, or someone you know that can introduce you. Ask yourself who's doing the work you want to do. If you can't find one, maybe they don't have the greatest website, or it's just not, maybe they're more private with who their staff are online. You can look at contacting human resources department. Sometimes they're called different things at different companies, but look for human resources or the careers page. And also sometimes an office manager, office coordinator, or administrative assistant can be one of the most in the know people as far as who to connect you with. So that's a good place to check. You know, worst case scenario, you can also find, usually they've got a general info at email address. It's different everywhere, but you could send something to that if you can't find anybody. So you could start off with an email, but you also may want to call to get a quicker answer. But an email example would be, so dear so-and-so, my name is, I'm just going to fill in some information for me. So my name is Sarah. I'm a student studying English at Berea College. I'm interested in becoming a publicist one day, and I have a particular interest in the work that this firm does, especially the work that's been done with publishing and working with Appalachian authors, Appalachian literature. This is just an example. So are there any internship opportunities available to undergraduate students for summer 2021, or would there be the possibility of creating an opportunity for an experience with you? If paid opportunities are not available, Berea College can fund me for an 8 to 10 week internship working 30 to 40 hours per week. And this is important. You want to have your resume and cover letter ready. So you want to say, I've attached my resume and any other things as appropriate. And I would welcome the opportunity to discuss my interest and qualifications with you further. Thank you for your time and consideration. Again, this is just an example. Please make it sound like yourself, because if you just copy this word for word, it may not sound like you. But this is just a way to structure those questions and some of the information you would want to include. I'll just touch on this briefly because Esther goes into it in much more detail in the applying for internship session. But polish your professional image. Make sure that when you're reaching out, you are ready to send a resume or apply. So update that resume. There are so many resources on the career development website, like Optimal Resume. You can make handshake resume review appointments as well. So make sure that you do that and don't just have a friend read it, because they may not know what employers are looking for in your industry. So use us. We are here to help you with that. Clean up your social media, or, I mean, make things as private as you can, but how do you come across? Ask an honest friend. How do you come across on social media? Because, you know, whether you like it or not, social media is often one of those things that's been added as a kind of a check on people. So even if you think your information's private, somebody might know somebody who might be connected to somebody else who could get a hold of it. So just be comfortable with what is on your social media. Even if you come across as just negative, like if you complain a lot, I've known people who've hesitated about candidates because they complain too much on social media. So practice your interview skills. There are mock interview appointments in Handshake. If you don't see any right now, you can reach out to Career Development and schedule those, or wait, they'll tell you when they're going to be posted. Hopefully you can do more than just, you know, the random skill like this picture. So you want to practice. It may feel silly at first, but if you have talked through an answer, you're going to be much more comfortable. and not stammer as much. So, and watch for events and handshake around these topics too. There may be some virtual events. So I do want to show you about what Berea interns did, and I usually at this point in the presentation would say this summer, but because of COVID, it was last summer. So I will be going through these quickly, but if you have any questions on any of them, you can reach out to internships@berea.edu, and we'll be happy to talk to you more about maybe who the contact would be for them. So Zoe, African-American Studies major, worked with the Nunn Center for Oral History at UK. She got to go out in the region and interview people and collect some great stories and just meet so many people to kind of collect the history of the region. She got to work on projects that had some connections with the Smithsonian even. So really great opportunity there. Dawson, computer science. He did a software engineering internship with Red Hat in North Carolina. Chemistry major, Sarah, undergraduate research environmental science in pharmacology at UK. We had 3 students at Dickinson Fleet Services in Indianapolis do accounting internships. This is a great company. I think they've had all kinds of clients from public school systems, the bus fleets, to even, I believe they mentioned Disney at one point. But they need really great accountants, and they actually have an alum working there. So we can connect you with them. Isabeau was interested in hospitality management. She was a business major. So she found an inn that allowed her to do both hands-on in work as well as office work. So she could get an idea, because one of her goals was to open up her own inn one day. This was a great internship for that. Kirsten, sociology major, did a on-the-move mobile art studio internship. This is an art studio that's in an old refurbished Airstream trailer, and they take art classes to communities who may not have normally, may not be able to have that otherwise. So really, really great organization. Daniela, communications major, did her internship with the UK Opera Theatre program in Lexington, doing everything from their social media to some behind the scenes work. Zach Campbell, technology and applied design, mechanical engineering internship with Toyo Tetsu in Somerset. I believe he got a job offer or 2 from his internships. DeShantanae, psychology. She was interested in organizational diversity and inclusion and worked with the Santa Clara Valley Water District in San Jose, California. Gabriella, Spanish major, interested in law as well. So she did her internship with Restorative Justice in Louisville. Had great things to say about them. And yes, we have had students at the big name organizations as well. So Google, and worked with Global Technology Support in New York. Sharifa did a labor law internship with the Kentucky Equal Justice Center in Lexington. Got to use her Spanish skills as well as her interest in law to help people with their labor law issues. Nick is a great example of combining interests. So he was interested in both marketing and athletics. So he combined those and did an internship with the Pittsburgh Riverhounds in Pennsylvania. So think about, this kind of reminds me, think about what are some of your multiple interests as well as your major or area of study, and how can you combine them to make like the most exciting internship for yourself? I mean, you can combine different skills, different interests, and just make it a really fitting internship for you. Berenice worked with the National Immigration Law Center in DC, doing a civil rights internship. I mean, this is incredible experience that she's going to have on her resume when she graduates. Jessie Lawson, theater major, worked with the Children's Theater Company in Minneapolis. This was a really great email to get with these little pictures of kittens in here. Sarah Lisa, biology major, did her internship with the Best Friends Animal Society in Utah. And then a different, larger, scratchier cat variety, Alexa worked with a wildlife care, doing with the Forest Animal Rescue in Silver Springs, Florida. Aaliyah, African American Studies major, was really interested in youth development. So she worked with Partners for Youth in Lexington. Really, really great organization working with Lexington youth. Toby, computer science major, worked on wedding photography in New York City with a studio there. I mean, this is just some incredible experience getting on their resumes. Sean is an example of he was through the Shepherd program and did opioid research with the police department in Pennsylvania. Jayciana, English major, but particularly interested in disability administration, worked with Harvard University Disability Services in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So really great experience there. We had 3 students at the UN. We have just 2 of their pictures here, but 2 different majors, but both found internships with the UN that worked really well for them. There's a Girls Incorporated summer camp in Birmingham, Alabama. Sky, EDS major. Rodrigo, biology major, did undergraduate research at Caltech in Pasadena, California. Lilly Pharmaceuticals had McCall doing his pharmaceutical sales internship. It was really competitive this year, but this is a great employer to look at. Really, really well paid internship. Eli's pictured in front of the world's largest supercomputer here. He did his undergraduate research internship at Oak Ridge National Lab in Tennessee. He's a physics major. We had 2 students work with Partnership for Appalachian Girls Education, also known as PAGE, doing media and oral history internships. We had an event entertainment internship with Friday After 5 in Owensboro, Kentucky. Health and human performance major, did physical therapy with a PT Pros in Corbin. Kashonda Murphy did, she was a psychology major, did youth engagement with a juvenile detention center in Ohio. Here's one of the few international ones that we do have a working partnership with. Again, ask about any international possibilities because of this year. It's a little bit different. Agriculture and natural resources. So Mallory did a permaculture internship in Hawaii. People often will quickly get excited about potential internships in places like Hawaii, but we look at that on a case-by-case basis. You have to make a good case for it, and it has to be at or below the cost of doing it in the continental United States. So Raven, a sociology major, worked with Home of the Innocents in Louisville, a really, really great organization, works with youth and children with all kinds of different needs in Louisville. We got to tour that a year or so ago. This was one of the most specific internships that I've ever heard of, but it was perfect for the student. So again, this was one of the international internships where she found somebody that was familiar with the organization. They could vouch for it, but again, the funding is not the same. Deadlines are not the same for international internships. So you would need to ask us and look at those guidelines that we talked about. But some students are able to make it work if it's really the perfect fit for them. Another health and human performance student did a dance education internship at this nonprofit in Berea. Music and education major, Omar did his internship with the Sunflower County Freedom Project in Mississippi. We had another neuroscience medical research internship at University of Washington that Sienna did. And Ronnie Sloan, sustainability environmental studies major, did an internship with the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. And they were really, really impressed with her. So if you're interested in sustainability, she'd be a great one to talk to. We've even had students do optometry internships, biology major with King's Eye Care in Berea. Another HHP, health and human performance major, interested in exercise physiology at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. I mean, this is a big name in hospitals, so really great to have on the resume. Joshua, history major, did maritime archaeology at a lighthouse in St. Augustine, Florida. Agriculture and natural resources, Jacob did a crop science internship in Texas. And then we've had computer science project interns as well on campus. So that's an option for some people if you're looking at an on-campus internship. So if I'm going to simplify this all down, networking is a big deal. You need to prepare. You need to continuously look and not just give up after one search. Let people know what you're interested in. Let us know so that we can forward opportunities to you if we see them. And then, of course, I've given you a lot of online options to look at, but it takes a lot of time. Be that detective and search. So, some important internship stuff to remember. The proposal deadline is April the 9th. Internships, in order to be eligible for funding, need to be 8 to 10 weeks continuous. Can't go somewhere in the middle. And for full-time hours, 35 to 40 hours per week. Ask yourself if you're seeking academic credit and or funding, because that's going to change what we can do. Consider in-person versus remote internships, pros and cons of each, and review the steps for participating in an internship at berea.edu/ICD/steps. So the next steps, you've watched this recording of the Finding or Creating session. If you haven't watched or attended Applying for Internships, you would need to do that. And then the third session, How to Receive Credit and Funding. If you have not attended that this year or watched the recording of that for this year, then it would be required. If you were planning on doing an internship next summer, it's required for all students. Look at other events and workshops. Stuff may be posted in Handshake early spring. Make appointments in Handshake as needed, but make sure that if you're asking for internship assistance, you have watched these sessions. And then review our website. We keep this as updated as we can, especially under that steps section. Thank you for taking the time and listening to this. I hope it has been helpful for you. Please follow us on social media so that you don't miss out on any announcements, any other things we're going to offer. Just follow Beyond Berea on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And then any questions, you can email internships@berea.edu. Thanks.